All right, so today I am going to really walk you through how to write a hypothesis. So, just as a little refresher, a hypothesis is an educated response or guess to a proposed scientific question. And this is what is tested during the experiment. So, it's really just a prediction about the outcome of the experiment based off of your prior experience or the research that you did prior to writing the hypothesis. So, a hypothesis has three parts: the independent variable, the dependent variable, and the researched reason. As a reminder, the independent variable is the part of the experiment that is purposely changed. Now, when writing your hypothesis, this always begins with the word if. If you remember, a hypothesis is usually written in the if then format. Now, if I move on to the dependent variable, this is the change that happens in your experiment as a result of changing the independent variable. So, this is usually what you're measuring. So, this always begins with the word then. And finally, the third part of the hypothesis is a thoughtful explanation as to why a predicted effect will occur. And this always begins with the because. This is where your research comes into play a little bit, and this will help you in creating your hypothesis. So, an example is if children get at least 8 hours of sleep, then they will perform better on tests because rest lets the body heal and refresh. So if I were to go through this really quickly, you can see then the independent variable is in blue. This starts with the word if. This is the part of the experiment that is purposefully changed. So if I move down here to my hypothesis, if children get at least 8 hours of sleep, this is the independent variable that I am going to change. So I'm probably going to be testing different hours, amount of hours of sleep. Then the dependent variable starts with the word then. This is the part of the experiment that is the predicted effect. So this is what I think is going to happen. Then they will perform better on tests. That part is in green. That is the dependent variable. Finally, the researched reason starts with the word because. This is where your really it's the explanation using the research that you've done to back up your hypothesis. So if you look down at the bottom in the purple, it says because rest lets the body heal and refresh. A solid hypothesis contains all three parts of this experiment or of this hypothesis. On the next slide, we're really going to walk through how to write a good hypothesis. So, you need to make sure you keep it simple and concise. Be as specific as possible, and the hypothesis is only one sentence long, nothing major. You don't want to use words like I, think, believe, all, never, or sometimes. This is way too broad. Also, you need to make sure that it can be tested and that you will have numerical data. So as I move down here, we're going to look at some examples. Again, I've broken it down into the different colors. Independent is blue, dependent variable is green, and the researched reasoning is in purple. Now, these hypotheses are a little silly, but it will get the point across. So let's start with the first one. My independent variable starts with if, and this is what's going to be changed. If candy bars in a store are displayed at eye level, so here I am testing different display heights of candy bars being stored. Now let's move on to the dependent variable. Then they will sell better than those at the bottom. This is really my prediction. Finally, this is my researched reasoning is in purple because people will be more likely to notice them. So altogether, it will be if candy bars in a store are displayed at eye level, then they will sell better than those at the bottom because people will be more likely to notice them. Let's move on to the next one. In blue is my independent variable, starting with if. If a cold tablet is placed into water that is stirred, now here comes my prediction in green, then the tablet will dissolve faster. And finally in purple, my researched reasoning, because stirring increases the solution rate. So altogether, that would read as, if a cold tablet is placed into water that is stirred, then the tablet will dissolve faster because stirring increases the solution rate. And finally, let's look at this last example down below. Again, my independent variable, which is the only thing that has changed throughout the experiment, is in blue. If students using backpacks are in high school, then in green, my prediction, then the backpacks will be heavier than those of middle schoolers. In purple, my researched reasoning is because they have heavier textbooks. Now, not necessarily true. Again, I said these were a little silly, but we can see the three parts of the hypothesis: the independent variable, what's going to be changed throughout my experiment; my dependent variable, my prediction or what I think the outcome will be; and finally in purple, the researched reasoning behind it. So, what I would like for you to do now is write down your hypothesis in your packet, and then you are going to work on actually transferring that hypothesis over into your PowerPoint slide.